Tensions rising in the Middle East. U.S. Central Command striking Iranian radar sites in Gorak and Keshem Island. This as Tehran continues launching missiles toward the Strait of Hormuz. President Trump providing an update on the conflict several days ago.
They've been largely decapitated, and I call it a military exercise because people would rather have it called that. It's not a big war for us. We're very close to having a deal, and if we don't have a deal, we'll do it one way or the other. Either way, we win.
I want to know what your red line is. What would trigger you to restart military action? Would it be Iran killing more American citizens?
Well, certainly that would be something that I would think about very seriously, but my red line would be if I think I wasn't going to make a deal or if I wasn't going to make a deal fast enough.
Interesting. Trey Yingst is live in Tel Aviv with the latest. Hi, Trey.
Yeah, hey, Mike, good afternoon. Tonight, Iran is warning it may target Israel after the IDF struck the Lebanese capital of Beirut. Those strikes against Hezbollah targets were in response to drone and rocket attacks over the border throughout the weekend into the northern part of this country. An Iranian parliament member said, quote, "We will deliver a decisive and painful response to the Zionist regime's attack on Dakhya. These rabid dogs must be disciplined and put back in their place. Look at the sky over the occupied lands tonight." With no diplomatic solution reached to formally end the war between the United States and Iran, there was another exchange of fire over the weekend. Late Friday, the United States shot down 4 Iranian attack drones that were headed toward the Strait of Hormuz. New video shows additional U.S. strikes that targeted radar systems in Gorak, Iran, and on Keshem Island. In response, the Iranians launched 7 ballistic missiles toward Bahrain and Kuwait, according to the IRGC. CENTCOM says 6 of the missiles were shot down, with 1 landing short. Over the weekend, President Trump described why Operation Epic Fury needed to begin in the first place.
We had to put out a fire. We had to extinguish a nuclear weapon, a capable nuclear. This was going to be a very capable country that was going to have a massive nuclear presence, and we weren't going to let that happen. Nobody wanted that to happen. And we've largely finished that, you'll see.
Inside Iran, the country is still feeling a massive amount of economic pressure due to the ongoing U.S. naval blockade. The streets of the country remain filled with anti-America and anti-Israel posters, but residents on the street say they want a deal.
God willing, they will reach an agreement. War is not a good thing for our country. Its negative consequences are enormous, especially for ordinary people. In particular, if our infrastructure is damaged, it is the people who will end up paying the price.
Now, Mike, Iran's parliament speaker and top negotiator Mohammad Khalibaf just posted on X minutes ago, and I'm going to read it to you right now. He says, quote, "The naval blockade against the Iranian nation and today's U.S. green light to the Zionist regime's turn of American bases and assets in the region into legitimate targets." A translation there indicating that the parliament speaker is connecting the strikes today in Lebanon and the ongoing U.S. naval blockade to the broader agreement with the United States. And again, he is echoing that parliament member threatening Israel with missiles tonight. Mike?
We will track it all. Trey Yingst, thanks very much. For more on this, let's bring in editor-in-chief of the Foreign Desk, Lisa Daftari. Lisa, welcome.
Thank you.
So President Trump says about the Iranian regime, they are strong, they are proud. That's why they have not agreed to a deal. What is your take on where things stand right now?
It looks like he has a proper read, right? What does ceasefire mean to this regime? We cease, they fire. In the meantime, we are using all of our tools, whether it is diplomacy at the negotiating table, whether it is establishing deterrence, whether it's the economic measures that we have put on them to put more pressure on the regime. All tools are on the table to be at war with this regime. That's the bottom line here. And I know that Donald Trump knows that the foregone conclusion is that we probably will not get a victory at the table. That's why you hear the rhetoric that you're hearing from him. We will win one way or the other, but we may have to go back to war. Now, I think that's the important strategic messaging here, that the regime understands that we do have the appetite to continue militarily, whether it's against the regime itself or its proxies. They are not able to change the narrative about this war. From the beginning of this war, our strategic imperative was no nuclear weapons. What did they do? They changed the arena of war to Hormuz. Then now they're trying to separate Lebanon from the end of their nuclear program. We cannot piecemeal this war or this threat. We have to understand that it's all under the same umbrella, which is the regime.
Lisa, you write about Iranian students taking to the streets in cities across the nation of Iran yesterday. What is your take on that, considering the grave risk they are taking by doing so?
Right. The biggest threat for this regime has always been and continues to be facing the Iranian people with whom they have no legitimacy. They still have to surmount that threat. Even if they're able to run circles around us, and I don't think they will be at the negotiating table, they still have to know that the Iranian people do have an appetite to come back out onto the streets. A lot of what you're seeing across Iran over the weekend is student protests coming back out. A lot of the signs are saying, arm us, give us the weapons, give us the tools to take on this regime. And if you follow Iran for the last few decades, Democrat and Republican presidents all had the same set of facts regarding this regime, but they bounced back and forth between bomb Iran, let Iran get the bomb. Neither one was sufficient to take down this threat, which is the actual regime itself. And Donald Trump used the third option, which was to partner up with the Iranian people. That was his first strategy. And in the first hours of this war, he went to the podium and said, we're going to degrade this regime. We're going to pass the baton on to the Iranian people. You will determine your future. That option is still on the table and not talked about. The Iranian people are reminding us that they're standing by. They're ready to take on this threat. But again, we still have to face this challenge of weakening, degrading the Iran regime, and then helping the Iranian people with full support to take on the rest.
The Iranian regime is accusing the United States of violating the ceasefire by shooting down at least 6 one-way attack drones. What about that back and forth?
Yeah, it's interesting, right? They shoot the drones and then they wonder why we shot them down. We're the ones who are violating the ceasefire, right? Obviously, this is not a regime that is looking to make concessions. This is not a regime that was designed to make concessions or to be reformed. Donald Trump understands who he's dealing with. And again, whether he's talking about diplomacy, he has made it known that the finger is on the trigger. We can go back to kinetic action at any time. And it looks like that's what the regime is basically asking for at this point. They are not making any concessions. Meanwhile, what would they make in terms of how would we verify them? How would we watch when they shut off IAEA cameras, when they don't allow the inspectors to go in and inspect? The two things that Donald Trump has done is to make it known that, number one, we're not going to give sanctions relief and cash up front like previous administrations did. And number two, there will be no sunset clauses to get them to a nuclear weapon. It is a zero, no tolerance about nuclear weapons strategy, and they have to know that. The very existence of this regime is equivalent to having deadly weapons, to having missiles, to having drones, to saying death to America, death to Israel, and that will not change.
Lisa Daftari, always fascinating. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Be sure to like and subscribe for all the Fox News latest on YouTube and catch full shows streaming now on Fox One.